Well, hello and welcome to Agenda 21 Radio. And this is a very special program for Agenda 21 Radio. We are covering what happened on the evening of February 12th, 2017 at the Oroville Dam and who made the decision to evacuate almost 200,000 people and ultimately saving their lives. We had the opportunity to visit with Sheriff Corey Honea of the Butte County Sheriff's Department at a speech that he was giving in front of the Oroville Republican Women's Association. This is that audio portion of that presentation from Sheriff Honea. Now I have to tell you, you need to be prepared for some pretty straight talk, I think, realistically from the sheriff about the events that took place on February 12, 2017. They are events that literally, by his own decision, one man's decision, saved the lives of over, well, up to and over, depending on what the count is, who's counting, 200,000 Northern Californians. It could have been a lot worse had he not decided on the very last minute to stick his head into a meeting as he was leaving the Department of Water Resources late in the afternoon of February 12, 2017.
As you may recall, this event all starts basically, for me anyway, back on February 7th of this year, when I was alerted to the fact that there was a gaping hole in the primary flood control spillway up at Oroville Dam. Now I'll be very candid with you and tell you that prior to February 7th, I didn't give much thought to the dam, and I suspect that many of you didn't give much thought to the dam either. Quite frankly, it's been around since the 60s, and it has become part of the landscape. Something that you know is there, but you don't pay a lot of attention to. And certainly, I think many of us were in that same boat. But when I was told that there was this gaping hole, the first thing I thought about was it caused me concern immediately that it would pose some threat or risk to my community. Now, I didn't exactly know what that would look like, what that threat or risk would be, how it would all play out. And certainly at that very moment, I wasn't even fully aware of the emergency spillway and what its function was and how it would play into this whole thing. But I did recognize that there was a potential threat to my community. So very early on, as sheriff of this county charged with protecting this community, I made sure that I and my department were at the table from the very beginning and started inserting ourselves into this crisis to ensure that the interests of my community were being watched out for and protected. And so what came of that ultimately was me being part of a unified command involving CAL FIRE and the Department of Water Resources. And as we went through, certainly decisions were being made by the Department of Water Resources to deal with the impact of the gaping hole in the primary controlled spillway. Those decisions were being made based on the information they had, and I have to tell you, they didn't have a playbook for this. But what resulted, as you all know now, is that the water kept rising. And it got to the point where the emergency spillway, which was another structure that was built into the Oroville Dam complex, was going to come into play because they weren't releasing enough water out of the reservoir to keep pace with the amount of water that was coming in. Now there was some work done to try to mitigate the impact or effects of utilizing the emergency spillway, which included clearing some trees and the area in front of that emergency spillway. But on February 12th, the water, actually on February 11th, the water got to the point where it began to crest that emergency spillway. And initially, things seemed to be going okay. By February 12th, it had been going over there. Certainly a lot of rock and debris and dirt had been washed into the reservoir. But at that point, the information that I was receiving, the information that my counterparts at Cal Fire were receiving, and certainly that the director of DWR, who's part of Unified Command, was receiving, was that it's going all right. Under the circumstances, utilizing the emergency spillway certainly is not the best situation by any stretch of the imagination, but it was going okay. And so on Sunday, I had been working basically all week, late into the night, worked Saturday. On Sunday, if you recall, it was a beautiful sunny day. I'd actually started off at the at DWR, checking in on things, checking with staff who had been there throughout the night. And then I ended up going over to the Wynn Memorial Church of God in Christ in Southside Oroville to make a presentation to the pastor over there that I planned to make on another day, but he wasn't available. And the topic of the Oroville Dam Spillway, of course, was among the things that I talked about. And interestingly enough, before we left, the pastor over there asked if they could pray for me, given the situation that we were dealing with. And they prayed for my strength and wisdom and courage. Strength, wisdom, and courage. Now, as a side note, I'm going to tell you later on that I learned from another pastor that when you pray to God for strength, God gives you problems to overcome. Right. And when you pray for wisdom, God gives you difficulties that you have to work through and solve. And when you pray for courage, God gives you danger to overcome. Now, I didn't know that that's what that meant when they were praying for that. And since then, I've gone around and I've asked everybody who tells me that they pray for my strength, wisdom, and courage to please stop. Just stop for a little while if you could. I just need a little bit of a break. But all that aside, I left Wynn Memorial and went back to the Department of Water Resources, and I was checking in with everybody. Things seemed to be going well. And it appeared to me at that point in time, about 3:30 or so, that I served no useful purpose anymore at the DWR. All of the people that I had there were doing a fantastic job. Everybody was doing what they needed to be doing. And it was kind of one of those things where, you know what, the sheriff's in the way. Maybe I'll just go home and get some rest. Yep. And I'll leave this situation in the very capable hands of the people who were working there that day. And so I went around and I began to tell all of the people working there good night, and that I would be going home, and if they needed me, they could contact me by my cell phone. But I had a lieutenant there, and I had one of our public relations folks there, and they would be able to take care of everything. And so I went around and shook everybody's hand and talked to them. And as I approached in the command center, there was a long, long table, actually longer than this. It was a table that the people who were part of the command team were utilizing to do it. And I walked up to the individual who was the designated incident commander for DWR. Very nice man. I've really grown to like and respect. But he was sitting at the table, and he had his hands, his head in his hands like this. And he was looking at a photograph. And the photograph was a picture of the emergency spillway with water coming over the top of it. And as I approached him, I heard him say, "This isn't good. This isn't good. I don't like this at all." And as I got a little closer, I heard him say, "Does the sheriff know about this?" Now, at that moment, I knew that we potentially had a problem, because early on in the formation of our incident command team, there were a couple of opportunities, learning opportunities for the people at DWR, where I impressed upon them the incredible importance of keeping me informed of anything that might result in a risk to public safety. And that I needed to know that as soon as possible. And it was that earlier foundation that was laid, which is what resulted in this gentleman saying, "Does the sheriff know about this?" So I walked up and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, it's right here, Sheriff. He pointed at the water. He said, it's right here. And I said, well, what is that? And he said, that's erosion. And it didn't look like, it was water to me, and they understand how the water looks when the ground is eroding underneath it. It was a different, current of white water. And I said, okay, well, what is this? This is erosion. I said, okay, well, what's wrong with that? He said, well, it's moving fast. And I said, well, what does that mean? He said, well, we need to get into a room and talk about it and really make sure we understand. I said, well, go talk to him. Get that done and get out there and talk to him. So he and a number of other experts, engineers, geologists, hydrologists, dam safety experts, all went into a room, and they came back out. And when they came back out, they were with the director. But I could tell that something was very wrong. The mood had changed. Everything is okay. Mood that I had experienced about 15 minutes before was gone. And you could tell that these guys were very, very concerned. So I said, all right, what's going on? And the story, as it played out, and I'll just give you the synopsis of it, essentially was this. Erosion was occurring in the area in front of the emergency spillway. It was moving rapidly. When I asked them how rapid, they said about 30 feet per hour. When I said, well, what does it mean? And then they said, it's head cutting. I said, what does that mean? They said, well, that means it's moving back towards the face of the emergency spillway. And I said, okay, well, what happens when it gets there? And the gentleman who alerted me to this problem said, sure, if it gets there, we are concerned that it will result in a catastrophic failure of the emergency spillway. I said, okay, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, they told me the number of cubic feet per second of water that would be coming out. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. Tell me what that means in terms of, and the analogy, what the explanation was, Sheriff, we could be looking at a 30-foot high wall of water, some 1,013 feet long, flowing out, down the hill, taking with it trees and rocks and debris and houses and cars and people, all the way out, and will continue until the top 30 feet of the reservoir has emptied. And I said, that sounds to me like thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives are in danger. And they said, that's exactly right. And so then I said, how close is it to the spillway? Where's the spillway? And they said, Sheriff, we think it's about 30 feet. Now at that point, I realized that if the rate of erosion continued, I only had an hour to try to get thousands and thousands of people out of the area. And so I said to the group and the command, guys, I think we have to evacuate the southern part of Butte County. If we don't do it now, if we don't move now, and it goes, we're in trouble. We're going to lose. And they all agreed. Sheriff, we got to do it. And so at that moment, I refer to as my staff, pulled the big red handle and ordered the evacuation of the southern part of Butte County. I turned to my lieutenant, I turned to our community relations folks. I said, get the word out. And the word out meant putting it out for our mass notification system, putting it out for our media sources, putting it out for social media. It was all-out effort to blast that message out as wide and as far as we possibly could. Now, I got to tell you, at that moment, what we were facing, and they were scared, I was scared, everybody was scared. It was the most tense and stressful situation I had ever been in my career. And I came to the realization that if the rate of erosion continued at its rate, and we experienced that catastrophic failure, that it wasn't whether or not people would die, it was how many. And so this was a race to get people out as fast as possible. After giving that order, I gave 3 more orders. The first order was, I told the lieutenant, get a hold of the jail staff, evacuate our jail, because at that point we had serious concern that the sheriff's complex would be in the inundation zone would be covered with water. The next question, of course, was, well, where do you want them to go? And I hadn't thought that far, so we had to figure that out piece out. That story in and of itself is an amazing and harrowing story, too. We ultimately got our inmates out, and we took them to Alameda County. The sheriff in Alameda County took all of them for us. And people sometimes ask me, well, Sheriff, why did you back to jail? And the bottom line is this. My job is to protect all of our community, all of our citizens, even the ones who've been accused of crimes and convicted of crimes. And I couldn't open the door and let them out, and I couldn't leave them there to die. So we made sure that we got them there. The second order that I gave was evacuate our dispatch center. And I gave that order because, again, I was concerned that our dispatch center would be in the inundation zone. And I knew that if we lost the ability to communicate internally with all of our staff and all of the first responders that were coming in, and externally to the public who would be calling in and trying to transmit information, that we would lose the fight. Lose your ability to communicate, and you are seriously, seriously injured. And so I had to protect our ability to communicate. So I ordered our dispatchers to evacuate. The third order that I gave was to call all of our available staff and get them in to help with this evacuation. And that also I needed dispatch to be evacuated so that they could facilitate calling all of our staff members in. They were the ones that were going to get the help going. As soon as I gave that order, a lump formed in my throat because I realized that I had just ordered thousands of people out of an area because I was afraid they were going to die. And I just ordered my entire staff into that very same area to help facilitate that evacuation. And I thought to myself, if I'm alive tomorrow, I may not have it tomorrow. Now, I'm going to let Jennifer tell you about her experiences of calling people in and helping. But after all of that was going, there were hundreds and hundreds of smaller decisions and tasks that had to be made. And I will tell you, frankly, a lot of that is a whirlwind. There are still things that I don't actually remember doing that people go, hey, Sheriff, do you remember telling me to do this or that? And the fact of the matter is no. Because at the moment, we were under crisis, and it was, you had to make decisions fast, you had to get it done, you had to move this way. I won't go there. There was a point in time where somebody came up to me and suggested that if we blew up another facility, that we could divert the water away from the populated area. And for about 10 seconds, I was thinking about it. Okay? But all that aside, as that was going on, I did end up placing a phone call to dispatch because I wanted to make sure they were out. And it's probably a good thing that I did because, and Jim will explain why that is. But I called her on her personal cell phone. And she was apparently on a 911 call. And I want to explain that. And she said, hey, hold on a minute. And I'm going to tell you at that particular point in time, I was in no mood to hold on. I said, no, listen to me. I said, are you guys still in our center? They said, yeah, we're making all these calls, we got to do all this stuff. And I said, no, I need you out of there. I need you to evacuate the center, get out of there, get to North County, get set up again, because I can't be sure that this thing is going to, you're not going to be underwater if we don't move this thing quickly. And so from that point forward, Jen, the rest of our dispatchers, orchestrated this amazing thing where they came together in crisis and coordinated our communication and got our people going the way they're going. And with that, I will turn it over to Jennifer. And with this one brief introduction, as I said, she is my wife. She's been with the department for many, many years. We were married before I became sheriff, so I'm not fishing in my own pond, if you'll allow it to. But she's also the fourth vice president of the Chico Republican Women's, and so she certainly understands the importance of these things. So without further ado, the person you really came here to listen to, my wife, Jennifer.
Well, after listening to Sheriff Honea give his explanation, as to what led up to his decision to order the evacuation. It's pretty understandable that he had no other decision to make. He made the right decision. He's a hero, and he should be given a medal for his courageous act to make the decision and take the decision out of the hands of people who can't make a decision like that. He saved over, by some estimates, of 200,000 lives in Northern California. The number of lives could have been even greater had we lost at least 1/3 of the dam, which was a realistic look at what could have happened if there had been more erosion over the emergency spillway, thus causing the complete collapse and failure of the emergency spillway. Thanks for listening, and thanks for watching to Agenda 21 Radio.
Sheriff Honea deserves some sort of reward, don't you think? What? What's that? It's snowing. Hello? Wow. It's snowing. I don't get that. Anyways, so let's give... Oh! I'm just playing around. There is one thing that was not mentioned. Oh, that was not mentioned in that video was the fact that I don't like the way that looks. Or that. Ooh, nice. Ooh. I'm a rainbow now. Anyway, so I'm just having a whole bunch of fun here. The only thing that was not mentioned in that video were the ADMs that were found at the Oroville Dam. So let me go ahead and show you a short article regarding the ADMs. Okay, hang on just a sec. So as stated, on February 12, 2017, when Butte County Sheriff Corey Honea, yay, made the decision to save people. 200,000 people, give or take, downstream from the dam. Make no mistake about it. It was blown up. That emergency spillway was intentionally blown up as they found nuclear devices that were ADMs, atomic demolition munitions, which are used for destroying power plants, bridges, oops, I don't know what that is, and dams. We're all very familiar with this picture, but the thing is, this right here, that is not erosion, right? This was an explosion. There's a big difference between erosion and explosion. They were planning to bring down the dam and killing about 200,000 people. This was a government plan, but it was stopped thanks to the sheriff of Butte County. A lot of people owe their lives to you, and we all wish there was more people like you around. So thank you very much for all you've done. Thank you for saving the agriculture, which, you know, if that dam went and all the agricultural land below it would have caused a famine in the United States, because most of the United States agriculture comes out of this area of the United States. So, you all too can thank Butte County Sheriff Honea for saving the day. He has my utmost respect. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, everybody.